The Christmas lights at the Langford Hotel glittered like frozen stars, spilling gold and red across the polished marble floor where laughter, champagne glasses, and holiday music blended into a perfect illusion of warmth. It was the kind of night where everyone pretended their lives were lighter than they truly were. And in the center of it all stood Evelyn Hart. No one looked twice at her. She wore a simple ivory dress, elegant but understated, her hair loosely pinned, her makeup minimal. She looked like someone who had slipped into the wrong world by accident, a quiet guest among the glittering elite of New York's high society Christmas gala. Waiters passed her without stopping. Old friends of powerful families brushed past her without recognition, because no one knew who she really was. And tonight, she had not come to celebrate. She had come to end something. Across the room, under the chandelier that cost more than most people's homes, stood Daniel Reeves, her husband. Or rather, the man who had once promised to be her husband. He looked every bit the successful businessman he had become, tailored suit, perfect smile, a hand resting lightly on the arm of a woman beside him who laughed too loudly at something he said. Evelyn watched him for a long moment, not with anger, not with jealousy, but with a tired kind of sorrow that had taken years to grow. It had started small like cracks in glass, missed dinners, dismissed opinions, forgotten anniversaries, then came the contempt disguised as humor. The way he spoke over her in rooms where she used to feel seen, the way he stopped asking what she thought because he assumed it no longer mattered. No one noticed when a marriage quietly disappears, especially not when one person is too busy building an empire to notice she's already alone inside it. Evelyn had once been a name whispered in financial circles with respect, even awe, a billionaire investor who had built her fortune from nothing, who had outperformed men twice her age before she was 35. But she had stepped back from the world years ago, choosing silence over spotlight when she married Daniel. He had asked her to slow down, to be softer, to let him lead, and she had loved him enough to believe that love meant shrinking. Now, standing beneath the glow of a Christmas tree taller than the ceiling, she realized something she should have understood long ago. Love was never supposed to be a cage. A soft chime echoed through the room as the host announced a toast. Glasses rose. Laughter softened. Daniel finally looked across the room and saw her. For a fraction of a second, his smile faltered. Then it returned, practiced and polished. "Evelyn," he said as he approached, his voice warm enough for an audience. "You came." "I told you I would," she replied quietly. "You're early," he said, glancing at his watch, as if her presence required scheduling. "I didn't want to be late." Something in her tone made him pause, but only briefly. He gestured toward a small lounge area slightly away from the crowd. "We should talk," he said. "There's something we need to finalize." Her heart already knew what he meant. Still, she followed him. The room they stepped into was quieter, lined with velvet chairs and dim lighting that softened everything except truth. Daniel closed the door behind them. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he sighed, as if burdened by inconvenience rather than emotion. "This isn't working anymore, Evelyn." She didn't react. "I think we both know it," he continued. "We've grown apart. You've been distant for years, and honestly, I've met someone. She understands my life now." The words landed like snow, silent, cold, covering everything without sound. Evelyn nodded once. "I see." Daniel hesitated, expecting tears, anger, denial, anything but acceptance. "I've already had the papers drawn up," he said quickly, as if trying to fill the silence. "It's cleaner this way. No drama." He placed a folder on the table, the divorce papers. Her signature line was already highlighted. Outside the room, faint laughter echoed through the Christmas party like a distant world that no longer belonged to her. Evelyn sat down slowly. She opened the folder. Her hands didn't shake, but her heart did something far heavier, not because she was losing him, but because she realized she had already lost herself long before tonight. "You've changed," Daniel said, almost defensively. "You're not the woman I married." A small, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. "No," she said softly, "I suppose I'm not." She picked up the pen, and for a moment she didn't sign. She thought of the woman she had been, the one who negotiated billion-dollar deals before breakfast, who walked into rooms full of men who underestimated her and left them reconsidering everything they thought they knew. She thought of how she had once believed love meant partnership, not surrender. And then she thought of how quietly she had disappeared inside a marriage that asked her to be less. A single tear slipped down her cheek. She signed, not with rage, not with revenge, but with the calm of someone finally closing a door that had been left open too long. When she pushed the papers back toward him, Daniel exhaled in relief. "That's it then," he said. "Yes," she replied, "that's it." She stood, and for the first time in years she felt the weight of something lifting instead of breaking. As she turned to leave, the door opened suddenly. A commotion spilled into the room. A young waiter, no older than 19, stood frozen in the doorway, his face pale, panic in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he stammered. There's been an accident outside. A car hit someone near the entrance. I think it's the catering driver. He's badly injured." The room behind him erupted into noise. Confused voices, guests standing, security rushing. But Evelyn was already moving. She didn't hesitate. She ran. Outside, the cold air hit her like a shock. Guests gathered near the hotel entrance, forming a widening circle around a man lying on the ground, blood staining the snow beneath him. A delivery truck sat crooked nearby, hazard lights flashing helplessly. No one was touching him. People were afraid of liability, afraid of doing it wrong, afraid of becoming responsible. Evelyn dropped to her knees beside him. "Sir, can you hear me?" she said gently. His breathing was shallow, his hand trembled. "Please, I just need my daughter," he whispered. Those words shattered something inside her. Without hesitation, she pressed her hands against the wound, ignoring the blood, ignoring the gasps behind her. "Call an ambulance," she said sharply, "now. And someone get me clean cloths, not blankets, pressure dressings." People stared. Someone whispered, "Who is she?" No one knew, but she did not stop. She kept pressure steady, speaking softly to the man, keeping him conscious as minutes stretched like hours. Her voice became the only anchor he had left. "I've got you," she said. "Stay with me. You're going to see your daughter." The ambulance arrived. Paramedics took over. Only then did she step back, her hands trembling slightly, blood staining her palms. Daniel appeared at the entrance, having followed the commotion. He froze when he saw her. Not the tears, not the blood, but the way people around her were suddenly treating her differently. A security guard whispered something into a radio. A hotel manager rushed forward, eyes wide. "Miss Hart," he said breathlessly, "we didn't realize you were—" Evelyn didn't respond. She simply walked back inside. The room that had once felt suffocating now felt empty. Daniel followed her, confusion replacing arrogance. "Wait," he said. "What did he just call you?" She paused. Slowly, she turned. For the first time that night, she looked at him, not as a wife, but as someone who had once chosen him over herself. "I didn't tell you," she said calmly, "because I didn't want to be loved for my name." Silence fell between them. Outside, sirens faded into the distance. Inside, the truth finally rose to the surface. "You're Evelyn Hart," he said slowly, the realization dawning. "The Hart Capital founder?" She nodded once. The billionaire he had never thought to ask about. The woman he had dismissed as simple. The partner he had unknowingly tried to diminish. Daniel's confidence collapsed in real time. "I didn't know," he whispered. "No," she replied gently. "You didn't ask." Something broke in his expression. Not just shock, but understanding too late. "I thought you stopped working because you wanted a quieter life," he said weakly. "I did," she said. "I just didn't expect it to make me invisible." The words lingered, heavy, final. For the first time, Daniel had nothing to say. Evelyn looked at him one last time, and there was no anger in her eyes, only clarity. "I hope you find what you're looking for," she said softly. Then she turned away and walked out of the Christmas party, past the glittering lights, past the people who now whispered her name like a legend they had failed to recognize. Outside, snow was falling gently over New York City, covering everything in quiet white. For the first time in years, Evelyn didn't feel like she was disappearing. She felt like she was returning to herself. And somewhere in the distance, a man she had saved was being rushed toward a hospital, alive because she chose compassion over pain, action over silence. Later that night, a news report would quietly mention an anonymous woman who had saved a delivery driver outside the Langford Hotel Christmas Gala. But Evelyn Hart would never read it, because for her, the greatest transformation wasn't being seen by the world again. It was finally seeing herself, and walking forward, not as someone's wife, not as someone's shadow, but as a woman who had learned that even heartbreak can become the beginning of freedom.